welcome back to my channel. It's Laura. I am coming at you in full-on vacation mode, so excuse the hair. Enjoy the beautiful scenery behind me. I am filming from my Airbnb location in Todos Santos, Mexico, which is about an hour north on the Pacific side from Cabo San Lucas in Baja California. And I wanted to continue to bring you really good quality content while I was away on vacation. And I've gotten a few comments and questions about how I find contractors, and I have a system that works pretty well for me so far. And it's actually a really simple system, and it's very different than ways to find contractors that I've seen about online and that my mentors have told me that they do and suggested that I do. What I think it boils down to for me is I lack time to do any of the other methods out there to find good contractors, because they involve, meeting lots of people, going to job sites, things like that. And I work a full-time job. I also do other consulting gigs on the side, and I just don't have time to spend in really time-intensive ways to find and vet contractors. So I've developed a way that primarily uses the internet, but I am able to really sort through the good from the bad contractors. And I'm also able to find contractors who are licensed and reputable, which I think is a challenge no matter how you are looking for contractors. This video is all about my method that I use to find contractors. So I have, it's not even mine, but there's this saying around contractors that you can get three things. You can find contractors that are cheap, you can find contractors that are good, and you can find contractors that are fast, but you're never gonna find all three. That may or may not be true. I think for two of the three contractors that I'm working with right now, I would say they've got all three, which is pretty amazing. And one of my contractors is a little bit slow. He's not fast, but part of that is just because of how busy he is. But let me even back up for a second. What do I mean when I say a contractor? Well, a contractor is a person that you hire to do the work. So this could include anyone who has a specific license to do work and must be licensed by the state or the city. And that includes people like electricians or plumbers. And what sets these kinds of contractors apart, licensed contractors apart, is that there's a specific set of codes for the industry, and usually there are a set of laws and regulations that they must follow per the state, per the county, per the city. You get a licensed person because they come with the knowledge of the industry, they come with the knowledge of that particular state, county, or city. So they are going to do things according to code, according to the way that they are supposed to be done. And this is incredibly important because when it comes to certain kinds of renovations where you are doing things like pretty extensive electrical work, plumbing work, you're moving one room to another, you're doing significant demolition, right? And completely rebuilding a structure inside out. That requires that you get building permits, and a lot of times in order to get a permit you have to work with a contractor who has a license. Now there are some, of course that isn't a universal law, it varies by location, but in general building permits are required for extensive remodeling and repair. For certain of those trades, you need a licensed contractor in order to be able to secure the permit and to pass inspection. That's a quick background on contractors and why you would even want to get someone who is licensed. According to that three-part framework, fast, cheap, good. In my mind, you're always going to want a contractor who is good. I would personally prefer a contractor who is really good at what he or she does rather than be fast. I mean, I don't want them to be super slow and really delay the timeline. I'd like them to stay along the timeline, but if doing good work means that it's going to take a bit longer, I'm okay with that. So of those three criteria, I always require my contractors to be good. Now, when it comes to price, there really is no universal price for how much labor costs. Materials tend to be pretty universal, meaning, you know, lumber is a certain price per square foot. You know, PVC pipes for plumbing usually tend to be about the same cost, you know, no matter where you're getting them. So the big factor that can change is how much they charge for labor. And some of them will charge by the hour and say they charge a certain rate by the hour, or they will give you a price for the entire job. So I think you can definitely expect the labor to be a majority of the cost. And when you get quotes for the work, I would be wary if any of those quotes are significantly low or really, really high. You're definitely going to want to ask questions. You're going to want to make sure that whatever they give you is itemized. This is a specific task, this is a specific task, and then they give you a list of the materials. So that's very clear what you would be paying for. And I say all of that to say you can expect to pay about whatever that middle range is. So let's say you get three quotes. One is pretty low, one is pretty high, one's in the middle. I would go with the one in the middle, because it means they're probably on par with what the average is going to be, that going rate for that particular job or that particular kind of labor. So I don't worry so much about my contractors being cheap. I, in fact, don't want them to be cheap. I want them to be just in that middle range. So for me, the two most important factors is that they are good and that they're priced reasonably. In terms of fast, you know, you don't want your contractors cutting corners or doing things improperly. And in general, you know, because construction trade is a pretty old trade, the specific tasks, like there is usually a rule of thumb for how much a task will take. So for example, to install new wiring when you have the framing up, well, it's like, you know, a room doing the wiring, and that will take a day, right? 8 hours. You know, you want to make sure that the timeline that you're given makes sense. If one task that it seems like it really shouldn't take 2 weeks is on the project scope of work for that long, that means, you know, you should definitely be asking questions. So that's kind of just the background of this, right? So why you would want a licensed person, what kind of the criteria. People say, you know, you want to sort of vet your contractors by the good, the cheap, the fast, and then my preferences. So how do people tend to find contractors? Well, there's a couple of ways. One is referrals. You can ask others who have had work done for who they used, if they were pleased with that service. One other way, which is kind of a referral, but it's like anonymous, is if you are driving around and you see someone doing work on a home, you see like a contractor's van or car or truck outside of a home, you could drop by and ask. If there is work done on a home or a building that you really like, you can actually kind of go backwards. You can go to the city or to the county, whatever entity is that issued the permits for that work, and you could see who pulled the permit, and then call them and ask them to give you a quote. And then you could do something like going to your nearest big box store, home improvement store. Go early in the morning, and if they have a pro desk, like Home Depot, they have this like pro desk, you can go by super early in the morning and say, hey, who are your good contractors? Who are the ones that are always here, you know, early in the morning, especially on a Saturday or Sunday? Because they tend to see the contractors who are coming in and making the purchases, and the ones who are coming back over and over again. That means they're doing lots of jobs, which means, hey, they might be worth getting a quote from. And like I said before, these are all like perfectly good ways to find contractors. It's just that I lack the time. to really employ these. So what has worked best for me is an internet-based search, and I do a couple of things. First, I go to the state's contractor license lookup database. Every state is going to have it. It might be called something differently. You can just run a Google search on that. And they will maintain a list of people who have an active license in that trade. Oftentimes it'll say the company name, the location. I pull that up and I'll insert a screenshot of that in here as well. I'll pull that up and then I sort by or look for contractors that are in my city or nearby. And then once I have that list of local people who have an active license, then I go to Google and I look for reviews. Now my criteria for reviews, this is after a very hard lesson learned, are these. So one, they have to have at least 20 reviews, meaning I don't want somebody who's like super new. I want someone who's been in the industry for a while. 20 reviews kind of helps to filter out people with fake reviews, because what I noticed after I had a disastrous experience with a contractor a few months back, when I scrutinized the reviews that I saw of him, I saw that like he had actually written a number of the reviews, and then some of the reviews were written by, it looked like bots or just not people who were real. So if you can find contractors who have many more reviews, you can kind of read to judge the authenticity of the reviewers or the reviews themselves. So from there, I also look to see pictures of the jobs, which Google reviews usually includes. Now, I tend to use Google reviews over other sources like Angie or Home Advisor or any other sort of like home improvement site, because people tend to put things like photos of work, and because it's free. Then after I see the reviews, are they good? If it's a 4 out of 5 star rating system, they have to have at least a 4 and above pretty consistently, and there have to be photos of the work, and preferably I'll look at before and after photos to see like the quality of the work that was done. So from there, you know, I might have a handful of people, I might have 2 or 3 I call to get quotes. And I ask them for an itemized list of the work as well as the cost for materials. That way I can see how they are planning the work and whether that makes sense with the estimate that I was given. This actually worked quite well for me when I had contacted a handyman to do some work, and I got a quote that seemed exorbitantly high. It was between $4,000 and $5,000 to install a dryer vent and a vent for a half bathroom ventilation system, which seemed really, really high, especially because I knew the materials were going to cost maybe $100 or $200 max, and it was maybe a day or two worth of work, so 8 to 16 hours. So where was the $4,000 or $5,000? Like, even if his hourly rate is $150, well, for a day's work, like, what is that? 8 times 150 is, I'll plop it here. It's like $1,000 roughly. It just didn't make a lot of sense. And so I replied back asking for, well, what's your hourly rate and how long do you expect the job to take? I never heard anything back. So see, being smart about how long you think a project should take and how long or how much rather you think is reasonable in terms of an hourly rate for a contractor, that can really help you sort, you know, the bad from the good estimates. So that's really my process. I look on the state website or the county or the city, whatever the entity is that governs where I'm doing the work. I find the list of contractors. I then sort by the ones that are near me. Then I do a Google search looking for the reviews. They have to have 20 or more. If it's a 5-star rating system, they have to be rated at 4 or above on average. I call for quotes, and then I see whether or not the quotes make sense, and then I go from there. I will either engage them or not. The other thing is, I always follow up with every single contractor I contact, meaning I let them know either way. Yes, I'd like you to move forward with the work, or I'm going to go with someone else, and here are the reasons why. Now, for me, that's just courtesy, but I have heard actually multiple times from contractors that they really appreciate getting that. That way, they're not left hanging in the dark about whether I want to work with them or not. And in fact, based on um, the response back I got from one contractor, I ended up contacting him for another project because he was so appreciative of it. Like, and he took the time to reply back to me. So just being proactive about that communication, I think, is huge. So that's it. That's my process for finding and keeping really great contractors. It has worked well for me. I have gotten contractors that do excellent work, that work pretty quickly, and they charge fair prices. So it's one that, you know, I would recommend for you if you don't have the time to do those other methods, to find contractors, or to even just add this to your process to see if it works for you. So I hope that you liked this video and that you found it helpful. If there are any other topics that you would like to learn about regarding real estate investing, financial planning, building wealth, let me know down in the comments, and I would be happy to film that video for you. Take care. Bye-bye.